There are places in America where you can step off your porch and into 1963. No chain restaurants, no cell service, no rush hour. Just neon signs buzzing against the sunset, and neighbors who wave at you whether they know you or not. These are not theme parks. They are not Disney recreations or nostalgic tourist traps built to look old. They are real towns where real people chose to hit pause on progress. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes because they could not afford to change, and sometimes because they just liked it better that way. We are counting down 12 American towns that still feel like they are stuck in the 1960s, exploring what it actually costs to live there, what nobody tells you about the trade-offs, and whether the charm is worth giving up everything modern life offers. Spoiler, the answer is complicated. Let's start at number 12, in the Arizona high desert, where a 96-year-old barber is single-handedly responsible for saving an entire highway's cultural legacy. Seligman, Arizona. Population is 456. That's not a typo. This speck on historic Route 66 sits at 5,200 feet elevation, about 75 miles west of Flagstaff, and it inspired Radiator Springs from Pixar's Cars. The neon signs still glow along Main Street. The snow-capped drive-in still has fake door handles and squirting mustard bottles. The same pranks fooling tourists since Eisenhower was president. Median home price is around $125,000 to $175,000, which sounds affordable until you realize the nearest hospital is 42 miles away in Kingman. The nearest Walmart is also in Kingman. Your cell service is, let's call it, aspirational. Here is the catch nobody mentions. The economy runs entirely on Route 66 nostalgia tourism. When the tourists go home, so does the income. Summer regularly hits 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Nightlife? There is none. The town shuts down after dark, like it is still 1958. A local put it perfectly. When the interstate came through, they told us we would die. Instead, we became a museum of what America used to be. Picture this. You are standing outside the snowcap at golden hour, neon flickering to life against the desert sunset, wind carrying the smell of flat grill burgers and sage, and for a moment, you genuinely forget what year it is. That is either paradise or your personal nightmare. But wait, 55 miles east, there is a town whose entire economy depends on one line from an Eagles song. And yes, there is a flatbed Ford permanently parked there. Winslow, Arizona. Population 9,005. You know the Eagles song, Take It Easy? The one about a girl in a flatbed Ford? Jackson Browne wrote that line, and he probably had no idea he would keep an entire Arizona town on the tourist map for 50 years. There is now a park called Standin' on the Corner with a bronze statue, and people drive hours to take photos looking at literally nothing in particular. The town even parked an actual flatbed Ford there permanently, because apparently the song required visual aids. But here's the thing about Winslow. It's complicated. The La Posada Hotel is genuinely stunning, a 1930 Harvey house designed by architect Mary Coulter. It was abandoned for 40 years, nearly demolished, and then lovingly restored. It's a miracle in the desert. The Turquoise Room restaurant has James Beard recognition. It is legitimately one of the most beautiful hotels in the Southwest. Then you walk 3 blocks in any direction and see the other Winslow, vacant buildings, visible poverty, an economy still recovering from decades of decline. Median home price is $140,000 to $180,000, roughly 18% below the national average. The crime rate is higher than the other entries on this list. Some areas are genuinely rough, not just charmingly weathered. The cost of living is cheap. Rent runs $750 to $950 a month. The job market is railroad work, tourism, tribal services, and not much else. Healthcare means driving to Flagstaff for anything serious. Can we talk about the weather for a second? Summer hits 95 plus degrees. Winter can drop to single digits. Temperatures can swing 40 degrees in a single day. One Reddit user summed it up saying Winslow is America's weirdest success story. A town saved by an Eagles lyric and a hotel nobody wanted anymore. Picture yourself sitting in La Posada's gardens at dusk, train horns echoing across the desert, wondering how a place this elegant ended up in a town this struggling. Would you trade reliable infrastructure for that kind of beauty? Drop a "take it easy" in the comments if you'd try. Speaking of towns too broke to modernize, let's head to Illinois, where poverty accidentally created one of America's best preserved Victorian main streets. Galena, Illinois. Population 3,100. In 1845, this town was bigger than Chicago. I will say that again because it sounds fake. Galena, Illinois was larger than Chicago. Lead mining made it the regional capital of the upper Midwest. Then the lead ran out. The railroad bypassed them, and the town could not afford to tear down its old buildings. Fast forward 150 years, and that accidental preservation is now worth millions in tourism dollars. The irony is chef's kiss. 85% of downtown buildings are on the National Register of Historic Places. Ulysses S. Grant's home sits exactly as it was when he left for the Civil War. The DeSoto House Hotel has been continuously operating since 1855, though as one local noted, it still cannot figure out the Wi-Fi. There are no modern storefronts on Main Street, no chain signage anywhere, brick streets intact, Victorian lampposts. It is like someone put a Currier and Ives print in a snow globe and charged $15 for parking. Let's talk numbers. Median home price, $225,000 to $300,000, because historic homes command premiums and everyone wants to cosplay as a Victorian merchant. Rent, $900 to $1,200 a month. But here is the brutal truth about Illinois. Property taxes hover around 2% of assessed value. You will pay more in property tax here than in almost any other state on this list. Crime rate is very low, one of the safest communities in Illinois. Job market is tourism dependent, which means great from May through October and economically terrifying the rest of the year. One resident described it perfectly. Living in Galena is like being a permanent extra in a period drama, except you still have to pay property taxes and shovel snow. And there is the other catch. Winters are no joke. Below zero is common. January and February bring gray skies, dead tourism, and that special Midwestern seasonal depression. Can we talk about how this town has more wine tasting rooms per capita than actual necessities? You can walk to 7 wine bars, but real grocery shopping requires a trip to Dubuque, Iowa. Picture this. Early morning, fog lifting off the Galena River, brick storefronts emerging in muted Victorian colors, church bells echoing off the bluffs. For a moment you hear the town waking up the way it has for 180 years. 9 Civil War generals came from here. Now it has fewer residents than a medium-sized high school. Would you trade modern convenience for that kind of history? If so, wait until you hear about the Colorado town, where a steam railroad is still the most reliable way in. Silverton, Colorado. Population, 640. Elevation, 9,318 feet. Only one road in, only one road out, and it is called the $1 Million Highway, which sounds fancy until you realize it is nicknamed that because of the $1 million views you will see right before driving off a cliff with no guardrails. The entire downtown is a National Historic Landmark. False front western buildings line Green Street. Wooden boardwalks and hitching posts are still functional. There are no traffic lights because there is no traffic to direct. And here is the wild part. The most reliable transportation to this town is a 140-year-old steam railroad. The Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad brings vintage steam trains chugging into town daily during tourist season. When that whistle echoes off the canyon walls, you genuinely forget what century you are in. But then the train leaves, and it is still 1882. That is the trick. Let's talk reality. Median home price, $350,000 to $500,000 for extremely limited inventory in a town of 640 people. Rent, $1,200 to $1,800 a month, if you can find anything. Cost of living runs about 15% above the national average, because everything, and I mean everything, has to come up that terrifying road or on that train. The nearest hospital is in Durango, 48 miles and over an hour away on mountain roads that close during winter storms. Here is what gets me about Silverton. The ski area actively advertises that it has no grooming, no beginner runs, and will not rescue you if you get hurt in the backcountry. And people pay premium prices for this experience. Cell service ranges from spotty to non-existent, and you will wonder why you even brought your phone. The grocery store is one small general store. Winter brings 150 plus inches of snow annually, regular below zero temperatures, and avalanche concerns. A local said it best, "We have 640 people who live here on purpose." That tells you everything about the type of person who survives Silverton. Picture this, you are standing on the platform as the steam train pulls in, whistle screaming, smoke billowing against 13,000-foot peaks still capped with snow in July. The thin air presses on your chest. The silence when the train leaves is so complete it rings in your ears. Could you survive a winter here with one road that closes in storms? Remember Galena's brutal winters. Silverton said, "Hold my oxygen tank." But speaking of extreme transportation situations, the next town has not allowed a car since 1898. Mackinac Island, Michigan. Population, 500 year-round. Motor vehicles have been banned here since 1898 because they frighten the horses. That's the actual reason. 125 years later, the horses are still there, and the cars still are not. You get around by horse, bike, or foot. Period. No exceptions. Emergency vehicles are horse-drawn. The pace of life is literally limited by horse speed. And yes, the predominant smell of this picture-perfect Victorian paradise is horse manure. The Grand Hotel has the world's longest porch at 660 feet. It still enforces a dress code. No jeans in main areas after 6 in the evening. You can literally time travel to an era when men wore dinner jackets to eat. It's absurd and wonderful. Fudge shops dominate downtown because the island is famous for fudge. There are over a dozen fudge shops for 500 year-round residents. The math on that is truly unhinged. Numbers time. Median home price, $350,000 to $700,000 plus. For extremely limited inventory. Rent ranges from $1,500 to $3,000 a month for the very few year-round rentals that exist. Everything ships by ferry, so costs run significantly above average. The Grand Hotel charges $15 just to walk through the lobby if you are not a guest. Healthcare. There is a small medical center for emergencies, but anything serious requires a ferry evacuation to the mainland. In winter, when ferry service stops, you're down to snowmobile access across the frozen lake, assuming the ice bridge forms. Climate change is making that less reliable every year. One resident explained that in winter, they are down to 500 people, and no way off the island except by snowmobile. Some people think that sounds like heaven, and those are the ones who stay. Quick rant. People complain about traffic jams here caused by horse carriages. That is not traffic. That is a parade with hooves. Picture this. Early evening, the last ferry pulling away. Horse carriages slowing down. Tourists gone. The island settling into its Victorian quiet. No engine noise anywhere. Just hooves on pavement, bicycle bells, the distant ferry horn, the Lake Huron breeze, and the smell of fudge mixed with, yes, horse manure. Could you handle that smell as your daily reality? Be honest. But if you want artistic weirdness without the livestock, Arizona has a former mining town that the hippies took over when the copper ran out. Bisbee, Arizona. Population 5,200. In 1975, Phelps Dodge closed the copper mines and left. Property values collapsed, and then something unexpected happened. Artists, hippies, and wanderers moved in because it was cheap and beautiful. They built an economy on arts and eccentricity instead of copper. A town that was once a company-owned corporate operation is now one of the most anti-corporate places in America. Victorian buildings climb canyon walls painted in pastels. The Copper Queen Hotel from 1902 still operates and is allegedly haunted. Brewery Gulch once had 50-plus bars serving minors. Now it has art galleries, shops, and yes, still bars. There are no chain stores anywhere in town. The nearest Walmart is in Sierra Vista, 25 miles away. The streets are so steep and narrow that most are one way, and parking involves backing down cliff faces while tourists take photos. Let us talk costs. Median home price, $250,000 to $350,000 for houses built into cliffs with foundation issues and stairs everywhere. Rent, $900 to $1,300 a month. Cost of living runs about 10% below the national average, and Arizona's property taxes are beautifully low at around 0.62%. Crime rate is low. The job market is arts, tourism, hospitality, limited, but functional. Here is the catch everyone forgets. The terrain is brutal. Every house comes with two things according to one Reddit user: character and stairs. Lots and lots of stairs. Mobility challenges? This is not your town. Summer monsoons flood the canyon streets. The cultural divide between artists and longtime residents can feel tense, but there is also a strong LGBTQ+ community that has been here since the 1970s, and the creative energy is genuine. A local artist described it perfectly. Bisbee is what happens when a company town dies and the weirdos take over. It is not preserved history. It is accidental culture. Picture this. Late afternoon, sun lighting canyon walls orange, creosote smell from a fresh monsoon rain, live music drifting from bars, and you realize you are in a place where normal rules genuinely do not apply. The copper that built these beautiful buildings also left a toxic pit lake that is now a tourist attraction. Would you trade predictability for that kind of beautiful chaos? Remember how Mackinac bans cars. Bisbee does not ban them. It just makes driving so miserable you will wish it did. But if you want a hand-cranked ferry instead of hills, there is a Michigan beach town where someone literally cranks you across a river. Saugatuck, Michigan has a population of 925. The chain ferry crossing the Kalamazoo River has been hand-cranked since 1838. The same method has been used for 185+ years. Someone physically cranks you across the river, and tourists line up to watch manual labor like it is performance art. This is Saugatuck in a nutshell. They keep things working the old way because they like it that way. Lake Michigan beaches consistently rank among America's best. Oval Beach has stunning dunes and minimal development. RT galleries fill historic buildings throughout downtown. The Art Coast of Michigan designation is genuine, with a major gallery scene since the 1950s. The town has been a LGBTQ+ welcoming community since the 1960s, long before most of America caught up. A business owner said the inclusivity is not marketing. It is who we have been for 50 years. But here is the thing about Saugatuck. It is expensive. Median home price runs $500,000 to $700,000 because Lake Michigan frontage commands premiums. Rent is $1,400 to $2,000 a month for limited year-round options. Cost of living sits about 15% above the national average. This is not a budget escape. It is a resort town that never turned into a generic resort. Crime rate is essentially zero. Job market is tourism, hospitality, and art. It is highly seasonal. Summer population multiplies by 10 times. Then everyone pretends winter is peaceful instead of economically terrifying. Chicago artists discovered it decades ago for being remote and affordable. Now it is neither. A year-round resident explained the rhythm. Summer population is 10 times winter. You either love that or it drives you insane. Grocery shopping means driving to Holland, 15 miles away. Healthcare is limited locally. But the dining scene is excellent for the size, upscale farm-to-table, waterfront options, actual culinary ambition. Picture golden hour on Oval Beach, day trippers leaving, sunset painting the dunes orange, lake breeze carrying the smell of sunscreen and cedar from wine tasting rooms, sand between your toes, the chain ferry clanking in the distance. Would you pay premium prices for that kind of preserved charm? Leave the words "crank me across" in the comments. Speaking of Midwest authenticity, there is a Kansas town frozen in the Eisenhower era. Literally. Abilene, Kansas. Population is 6,100. This is where Dwight D. Eisenhower grew up, and the town has essentially remained frozen in the era when Ike was president. His boyhood home is preserved like a shrine. The Presidential Library opened in 1962. He is buried here. People give directions based on which way the library is. A local said they were not stuck in the past. They had simply picked a pretty good era to stay in, and they meant it. Unlike the tourism-dependent towns we have covered, Abilene actually functions as a regional service center. Real grocery stores, Dillon's and Walmart. Real hardware stores, real businesses that serve real residents. Mr. K's farmhouse is a 1950s-style drive-in with car hops that has been running for more than 40 years. Russell Stover Candies operates a factory here. People wave at strangers without irony. Businesses close on Sundays and nobody complains. The cost of living is roughly 20% below the national average, among the most affordable on this list. Median home price ranges from $155,000 to $185,000. Rent ranges from $700 to $900 a month. Healthcare is comprehensive through Memorial Health System right in town. Crime rate is low. Schools are solid. Here is the catch. Kansas weather is genuinely extreme. Tornadoes, ice storms, summer days above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, wind that never stops, so constant that trees grow permanently bent, and the cultural vibe is extremely conservative. Limited diversity. Nightlife is essentially non-existent. The most exciting annual event is the county fair, and that is not an insult. It is a genuine source of pride. A Reddit user put it this way: the wind in Kansas does not blow, it attacks. But you get used to it, or you leave. Picture this. Sunday morning after church, families gathering for brunch, wheat fields stretching to every horizon, American flags on every porch. The town moves at its natural unhurried pace. Church bells echo. You smell cut wheat and Russell Stover chocolate sweetness on the breeze. Wild Bill Hickok was marshal here once and was fired for accidentally shooting his own deputy. The town memorializes him anyway. Would you trade weather sanity for that kind of affordable stability? Abilene does not have mountains, but the wind is essentially a horizontal avalanche. Now let us head to Arkansas, where a 66-foot Jesus statue watches over a town with no traffic lights and a pride parade. Eureka Springs, Arkansas, population 2,100. There is a 66-foot Christ statue overlooking this town. It was built in 1966, completed the same decade when hippies started migrating here to escape mainstream America. The town now hosts the Great Passion Play, which claims the largest attendance of any outdoor drama in America. And it also hosts one of the oldest LGBTQ+ pride celebrations in the South. A local business owner put it simply: we have a 66-foot Jesus statue and a pride parade in the same town. If that confuses you, you are not ready for Eureka Springs. Downtown has 0 traffic lights, not because they removed them. The streets are too narrow and winding for traffic engineering to work. Victorian buildings climb steep hillsides with no grid pattern. The Basin Park Hotel has multiple ground floors because every level opens onto different hillside streets. The trolley system is not a tourist gimmick. It is actual transportation because driving downtown is a nightmare. Psychedelic murals from the 1960s still color buildings. It is Victorian architecture meeting hippie culture and evangelical Christianity. And somehow, everyone coexists. Median home price is $275,000 to $375,000. Inventory limited by impossible terrain. Rent ranges from $900 to $1,300. Cost of living runs about 5% below the national average, and Arkansas property taxes are beautifully low at 0.6%. The catch: the terrain is brutal. Imagine San Francisco hills with 19th century infrastructure and Arkansas ice storms. Your brakes will hate you. Cell service drops constantly because the mountains block signals. Healthcare is limited. Larger facilities require a 50-mile drive to Fayetteville. The seasonal economy means quiet winters. One city official admitted that there are no traffic lights because the streets are too narrow. There are no straight streets because the hills are too steep. We did not plan any of this. It just happened. Picture dusk falling, Victorian streetlights flickering on, the trolley making its last run, the town settling into its strange, peaceful contradictions. You can smell natural spring water with its mineral tang, incense from New Age shops, and fudge baking, all mixing together. The counterculture refugees of the 1960s are now the establishment. Would you navigate cultural contradictions for that kind of authentic weirdness? But if manufactured nostalgia sounds more appealing, there is a North Carolina town that intentionally became its own TV show, literally. Mount Airy, North Carolina. Population 10,400. Andy Griffith was born here in 1926. He based Mayberry on his hometown. Then his hometown decided to become Mayberry for real. Floyd City Barbershop is a working barbershop styled exactly like the TV show. Snappy Lunch Diner, mentioned in the show's lore, still serves pork chop sandwiches. Squad cars painted like Sheriff Andy Taylor's drive tourists around town. The fictional Mayberry was based on real Mount Airy, and now real Mount Airy is based on fictional Mayberry. That is a sentence that should not make sense, but here we are. Mayberry Days Festival draws 25,000 plus visitors annually. Median home price is $175,000 to $225,000. Cost of living is about 15% below the national average. Unlike pure tourist towns, the economy includes manufacturing and healthcare, and Northern Hospital provides comprehensive care. It actually functions. A local business owner explained the deal. People ask if we're sick of the Mayberry thing. No, Mayberry saved this town. When the factories closed, tourists came. We're grateful. But if you hate the TV show, you will hate your address permanently. Now, number 1, Mineral Point, Wisconsin. Population 2,500. This town started preserving historic buildings in 1935, before the National Historic Preservation Act existed. By the 1960s, the entire community agreed to freeze itself in time, not for tourism, not for survival, because they liked it this way. The tourists came later. High Street features continuous blocks of limestone buildings from the 1840s to the 1860s, Wisconsin's oldest surviving structures. Pendarvis Historic Site preserves cottages from the 1840s built by Cornish stonemasons. Shake Rag Alley houses working artists in preserved miners' cottages. There are no chains whatsoever on main commercial streets. Hand-painted signs, vintage storefronts, complete visual coherence, median home price. Say $220,000 to $280,000. Rent, $800 to $1,100. Wisconsin winters are brutal. Below zero temperatures are common. Madison is only 50 miles away for commuters wanting a rural escape. A longtime resident explained their philosophy. We didn't preserve Mineral Point to attract tourists. We preserved it because we liked it this way. Picture this. Early morning, fog lifting from the valleys, honey-colored limestone glowing gold in the sunrise, church bells, wind through old trees, the creek that gave Shake Rag Alley its name, Cornish pasties baking. You're walking where Cornish miners walked 180 years ago, and nothing significant has changed. 2 antique dealers in the 1930s did more for American historic preservation than most government programs. Wisconsin's most successful preservation happened because people were too stubborn to change. That's the gold standard. Not accidental preservation through poverty, not survival tourism, deliberate choice. So here's your question. Which town would you actually move to? Drop your pick in the comments. And be honest, what's your 1960s town deal breaker? The cell service, the weather, the horse manure, or is modern life overrated anyway?